So we finally made it to Virginia Beach. We're here for the Jackalope Festival. And I've never competed in a jackalope before. I've seen a few in the past and they look like a lot of fun, so I was quite excited. Today is the qualification day. It was a pretty small field actually. There was only about 35 competitors and they take 15 on to semifinals. So I was feeling pretty alright about this round. I knew as long as I just didn't make a big mess up, day one should go smoothly. And so you can see in that previous clip, a couple clips ago, there's actually no bouldering wall to warm up on here, which was super weird. I have never had to deal with something like this in the past. And so you see, I was actually warming up on the bleachers as most of the other climbers were. I was kind of just doing some pull-ups on the stairs, and there were like these small little crimps behind the bleachers that I was warming up my fingers on. It wasn't super nice, and so I started with that slab first, just to kind of not have to pull too hard and kind of finish off my warm-up. Not super ideal, but it actually worked out better than I thought. It was kind of warm on this day, so it made it even easier to warm up. So these first three boulders I was doing here were like, so there are 6 boulders in this round, and they kind of ended up setting 3 were like kind of easy, and then 3 were pretty hard. So those first 3 I did to get started, to like kind of get super warm, and I'm sure that was probably intentional by the setters. They did a good job of that. And so that red one I was just trying was the first one I tried of like the harder 3 here on the left. And the format that this qualifying round is happening in is a modified scramble. So you kind of like, everybody cues in with your judge, and then you go when they call your name. And so the line for that boulder was getting kind of long. And my strategy, especially with like a dyno like that, is like I usually like to try it a couple times to really get the muscle memory going from attempt to attempt. But the line was getting long and I was taking too long between my tries, so I just moved on. I said I'd save it for later. So I moved on to this yellow one, which is really cool. I like these holds, and this is kind of, you know, powerful style climb, sort of my style. But then the same thing started happening. The line got long and then this line cleared out again. So I went back and tried this, and it was kind of just me working this boulder, so I could kind of give it as many tries as I wanted in a row. And especially with a low percentage move like this, I actually would like to kind of double take my attempts, so that if I try it right away again, my mind will kind of know where to hit this crimp that I'm jumping to, which is blocked. And so my mind will just I'll have better muscle memory, like kind of on my second attempt if I fall right away. So this boulder was a lot of fun. You see it's got this cool little campus paddle in the middle. I think this boulder ended up getting like probably like 5 tops or something. So it was definitely pretty tricky. This ending is a little bit contorted. But yeah, so I had 4 tops, and I'm like looking around, and you know, I've done this format of scramble enough to kind of have a pretty good idea that I probably could have stopped after those 4 tops and just been good enough to make it to the semifinal and like be enough to be in the top 15. But these other boulders look fun, and I also wanted to just kind of use it as training a bit as well. And so after sticking this double clutch dyno on this yellow one on like my second try, I couldn't stick it again, and it was starting to wear through my skin, and I was about to give up on this boulder. So I decided to try one more thing, where I actually just kind of went to like a shoulder buster and then went into the double clutch, and then that like stuck a bunch of times in a row. But then this last move is like death defying. It's so scary. That move is so big. The right hand you have is super bad. So you barely pull off it a little bit to stand up higher, and then it's all like in your leg, this move. You kind of have to just pounce off your leg. And this got 1 top by Matt Rodriguez. He made the ending look super solid, but here this try was pretty close, but then I almost face plant, and so I decided it wasn't worth dying on this boulder. I was just in the qualifiers, so I stopped trying it, even though it was a lot of fun. And then I tried this boulder on the end here a couple times. I wasn't super tired at this point, so the whole round was 3 hours long, and I'd only been climbing for about 1 hour and 10 minutes or something, so I just decided to get a few tries. I knew that I didn't need it. And you can see here, like this right hand pocket is really bad, and like a few years ago I hurt myself really bad. Like probably my worst climbing injury I've had was from pulling really hard in a pocket. Ever since then I kind of have boycotted them, and I just kind of accept that I don't want to hurt myself in training. I'll probably be worse off in competitions when I do find these pockets, but they're not very common, so that's kind of the sacrifice I've decided to make. And so this pocket ended up kind of feeling a bit tweaky, so I just gave it a few tries and then called it. And I was pretty sure that I would be good enough for the next day. And so the next day was the semifinal round. Going into this round, I was kind of stressing out a little bit because this was going to be a different format. It was ISO, and so I was just kind of expecting them to put us all behind the wall. Where, I never thought the day would come where I would be hoping for bleachers to warm up on, but behind the wall there was like nothing. So I was kind of worried that if they stuck us behind the wall, we literally would have just nothing to warm up on. And the comp was organized pretty well, but like the warm-up situation was super bad. I don't know, like I feel like it would have been pretty easy to just put a wall up or something. So I was kind of stressing out. I'm like quite particular about my warm-up as well. I'm kind of a princess when it comes to warming up. I'm not like, that's kind of why I usually will struggle to go climb outside with other people, is I can't really handle the weird warm-ups. I like my jug hauls and then the slow build up and like on like boulders in the gym. But anyway, I had to really get out of my comfort zone for this event, and thankfully ISO was kind of in front of the bouldering wall here. You can see the people sitting on the chairs, and so we were allowed to kind of hang on the bleachers again. And it worked the day before, so it worked just as well today. Not super ideal, but it was actually better than I expected. And so that first slab climb took me a few tries. It's definitely weird to do a slab after warming up on just by hanging on crimps and like steps, because like your lower body's not necessarily super warm and ready to stand on footholds. So it took me a while to be able to trust my feet. But eventually, yeah, I made it work and did it in a few tries, which was good. And then this next boulder, I was kind of getting smacked around by this beginning. It was really strange, and I kind of was falling into my old habits of kind of rapid firing my attempts at the beginning here. Like pretty bad comp tactics. I was getting a little flustered, and especially because this is sort of a semifinal round where I knew that I would make finals unless I had like a really bad round or made a bunch of mistakes. And so as soon as a couple of mistakes start happening, like at the beginning of this boulder, that's where the panic kind of starts kicking in for me, and I'm like, oh no, is everything about to fall apart because I'm messing up the beginning of this boulder? And I could kind of tell people were like making it up to this jump like out of my peripheral. But anyway, I end up like doing this weird break, which I felt really weird about in the start. It was kind of like I don't really know what you're supposed to do. I didn't get a chance to chat with anyone else, but yeah, I went up the sidewall here, and then by the time I got up to this super small crimp at the end, I was so pumped from just like stemming around in that corner, and yeah, I didn't have any gas left for the end. And that crimp was really small. But I could tell that boulder wasn't getting topped a whole lot, so I was kind of just fine with the zone. And then, based on the reactions of the crowd and just like hearing people climbing behind me, I knew that this boulder here, this third one, was getting flashed a bunch. And so, also what was actually interesting is like everybody showed up to the venue, and then a couple people were kind of looking at the boulders, even though it was supposed to be like an ISO round. And so the judges just said, yeah, everybody, you can just like look at the boulders beforehand. And so I actually knew what all these boulders were going to be before I turned around for them. So I knew what this boulder was, knew what to expect, and then I heard people were flashing it, and so I said, okay, I'll just like kind of prepare myself pretty well for a good first go. And I think the boulder seemed like my style, and I could flash it. This last boulder was a lot of fun, nice and powerful, my style, some jumping, and I ended up qualifying in 4th place for finals later that evening.
Oh my! Woo! And I agree. Let's go, Zach. Yep. Come on, Zach. Come on now, Zach. Zach Richardson. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice work. Woo!
So here we are for finals. This is boulder 1. You can see I walked out to the boulder 1 and I forgot my scorecard, so I started yelling at my dad, who is with me on this trip, to ask if he could run and grab it from my bag, which he was able to do, and it was very helpful. But we ended up missing the first half of this boulder because he was getting my scorecard. It was a cool little foot first. You double toe hook to that big purple hold, and then you climb up to it to get your knee bar in for the next move. So yeah, I flashed that boulder, which was a nice start to the round. I think that boulder got 4 tops, so I knew I was in a pretty good spot after the first boulder, and I had a bit of confidence. But then the first couple people out were topping most of these boulders, so I knew that this slab had gotten topped before me, and I was definitely feeling a bit of pressure for this final round because I knew that I could win, and the winner was walking away with $2,500. That's US dollars too, which would be especially nice to me, the Canadian. So, finals is usually I can just try to have fun with it. But this was definitely kind of I really want to win at finals and not sort of just and enjoy it final round. So you can see I was definitely starting to feel out in the slab, and the panic was setting in, and I had my classic start freaking out, oh no, I'm making mistakes here, I'm slipping around on the slab, and then I start rapid firing, and then I kind of go into my hole where I'm going deeper and deeper. Also, what happened with this slab is it was kind of the same thing as the semifinal. We were allowed to warm up on the bleachers, and that was pretty much it. And so what I did is I did a really good warm up for the first boulder, and I felt good, but then I knew that the second boulder wasn't super physical, it was just kind of standing on your feet here. So I did something that I never usually do in a final round, and I actually just sat in the chair and did nothing in between boulders. And I never do this. And anyone that knows me knows that I like to stay warm throughout the whole final round. Oh man, you can see I'm just slipping and slipping. I haven't even watched these videos yet. I like to stay warm in between boulders, and I didn't do that because I didn't think I needed to here. And for the first couple minutes, I felt it. I wasn't ready to stand on these holds, even though it was just in the feet. And I kind of was oh no, did I mess myself up? And so I ended up kind of rapid firing my attempts too much. I could tell, as I was sitting on deck, I heard running behind me, so I knew that it went as this run across jump, even though you could see there was some other holds there. It looked like the setters might have been going for something slow. But yeah, I knew I kind of messed it up on that slab, and I kind of felt like the wind was beyond me at this point, and so now I was just playing for middle positions. So it kind of took some pressure off, and I was able to have a bit more fun throughout the rest of the round. And then now we're here on the third boulder, which was my favorite boulder of the whole comp. This one was really fun. You can see you start with this campus paddle. You go 1, 2, 1, 2. I think actually one thing I didn't realize is the black tape on the arete is kind of higher. It doesn't go all the way down. It's higher than you think. So I think a couple people actually toe hooked the arete and just went to the yellow and then jumped over to the thing. I think only me and one other person, maybe 2, did this whole campus paddle thing. Super cool move. It took me a bunch of tries to stick. So the hole you're going into, this blue, there's a little jib, and I kept missing it. And then as soon as my one hand landed on it, it was solid. Really cool move. And here, this right hand undercling, a super tiny crimp, and I actually screwed myself. I split this tip here, my pointer finger, really badly. And at the end of the day, I finished 5th here at Jackalope. Not super great result, but it's fine. It's kind of just getting my comp mindset, nice and warmed up, and I'm kind of in the zone, ready for this weekend for Vail. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway from this event. But it's kind of mixed. It's not just quite a net gain from this event. It would be if that's what if it was just to get kind of the comp mind firing. I would say, you know what, I'm glad I went to this event and I got something from it. But the split is gonna kind of mess up my next couple of days of climbing, and I don't know if I'm gonna have to tape it for comp day. Hopefully not, but that wouldn't be ideal. So I'm kind of a little bit bummed about that. Yeah, it's just one split tip, but it's pretty bad. It's really painful, man. Anyway, we're here on Boulder 4. I kind of am just like messing around. Like, of course I want to tough the boulder just because I don't like leaving boulders undone. I knew it had been done before me. And, but I wasn't super like, I wasn't being super conscious of my attempts. I was just kind of like throwing myself at the boulder. I knew it didn't really matter what I did. I think it was kind of guaranteed like 4th or 5th at this point. Maybe I should have kind of tried to reduce my attempts as much as possible just for practice. But yeah, I'm kind of just throwing myself at this boulder. This is also a really cool boulder, this first move. A little shoulder foot stab thing. And I think my foot kept missing. You can see it was always like a bunch of my tries, my foot's too far to the left. And then as soon as I realize that, I bring it to the right a bit. And then I think I stick it on this next try. But yeah, overall I felt like pretty decent for this comp. It's hard to tell what, like with the weird warm-ups, especially for me because I'm such a princess. I've never like had to do an event where I've had such a weird warm-up before. So I still felt good, but it's kind of hard to tell like how my shape is. I think it's pretty good, and I'm super psyched going into Vail. So yeah, that wraps up the Jackalope Festival in Virginia Beach. Not my best rounds of competing, but I had fun. The venue was super cool. Like, you can see the bouldering wall is just like, you're climbing on the wall, you look to your right, and then you're just on the beach. So it was really cool, a lot of fun. My dad came out, it was a nice, fun little trip. And yeah, I got kind of like my comp mindset nice and primed and nice and warmed up for Vail this weekend. Yeah, I got a split tip, not so great, but it's fine. I can't be a baby about that. So yeah, I'm super motivated to try and crush it this weekend in Vail.